I want to thank you for taking the time to attend the webinar today. I'm Matt Henson. I'm the marketing manager here at EasyDerm, and I'm going to be your host. I'm joined today by Brent Cavender, co-founder of MetaMed Marketing, who's going to lead us through today's presentation. Before we dive in, I want you to think about the last time you looked up a new restaurant or place to get your car's oil changed. Did you Google it, or did you scroll on TikTok or ask Facebook or maybe Alexa or even ChatGTP? Did you ask them to kind of point you in the right direction, or did you go like straight to Google? That kind of same search shift is happening with patients today. And that's what we're here to talk about. How search has evolved and what that means for your practice. With that, I want to turn it over to Brent to get started.
Thanks, Matt. That was a really good introduction because that's exactly what's going on right now. And people are a little scared, a little worried. Frankly, the ground is shifting below our feet at the moment. And that's okay. With change comes fear and intimidation, but also opportunity. And so that's what we want to help people to have today, is that opportunity. You'll recall, Matt, that that we spent some time, I don't know, 6-9 months or more ago, talking about SEO 101. We talked about original copy. We talked about architecture. We talked about quality links coming into websites. I just want to reassure everybody that that foundation that we laid is still solid today. And in fact, because you've laid a solid foundation in SEO for your website, you're going to now be able to build upon it with the changes and the adaptations to appeal to AI search engines. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's absolutely really critical to note, what you said about, SEO 101 still kind of being your foundation, right? You've got to have a firm foundation, a good place to start, and then you can build off of those with kind of some of these strategies that we're going to talk through today.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in. Our agenda, pretty straightforward. We're going to lay a new foundation on top of the old foundation today. We're going to talk about some important trends. We're going to, at the heart of the conversation today is what to do about those trends in order to maximize performance of your digital marketing online and be successful as a elective healthcare practice. And this is, I'll say this with a smile, Matt, this is kind of the fun part of the conversation. We're going to summarize some of the nuances around AI optimization. And before I go any further, I have to give credit to my business partner, Ali Kouros, who you knew very well. He has been beating on me for years about AI and its involvement in search and how that's where we need to be going. And he was quietly deploying all of these tactics that we're going to talk about today, despite my hesitancy and my skepticism. So kudos to my business partner for being way ahead on the AI necessary trends. If we don't do one other thing today, we want this following point, and I'm going to get on my soapbox just for a moment. We need the audience to understand this point. SEO and websites are not dead.
Yeah.
Have they evolved? Of course, absolutely. That's why we're talking today, right? Things are really shifting below our feet. I don't think anybody would deny. Everybody's, hearing more about AI. They're using AI. It's really it's affecting every aspect of our lives in work and even, away from work. So,
yeah, I mean, it's such a big buzzword, and there's so many capabilities of it that sometimes it feels maybe hard to grasp or identify what the best strategy is or what tool I need to use from an AI perspective.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, to be frank. Okay, but I do want to put up some proof statements. First of all, I just need to show people that if they think that SEO and websites are dead, take a look at this. This is 1 month of data going back from yesterday. And you can see that, yeah, sure, there are some AI leads coming in from a ChatGPT source. All right. So we've got some leads coming in down here, but where's the lion's share of the patient inquiries coming in 1 month's time? So admittedly, this client's killing it. They're doing great. But and even admittedly, maybe a third or a quarter of these could be, I don't know the exact numbers, but could be from AI search features within Google's search engine result page. So that could be AI generated within Google, but we cannot deny that this is the lion's share of the business that's coming into the practice. Okay, so that's data. Let's just Matt, this is kind of a fun exercise. Let's just think for a moment. You go to an artificial intelligence agent, whether it's voice search, whether it's a ChatGPT in a tab open in a browser on your website, and you ask a question, they give you an answer. Where in the heck do you think that information came from to provide that answer? It had to have come from the website. Maybe some social media posting, maybe some paper that you wrote off the website, but the lion's share of the information that is going in to create, to come up with answers, which are often a collage of numerous sources of information, that's coming from websites. And so for anybody thinking websites are dead, SEO is dead, I'm sorry, I'm going to be tough on how I say this, but wake up. You got it's not only is it not dead, it's more important than ever. Okay, now I'm going to step off of my soapbox, Matt. Okay, so in simple terms, what hasn't changed? Well, for the 12, 13 years now that we've been in business at MetaMed Marketing, there has been a conversation linking between social media channels, YouTube, and now there's even one between some of these AI agents, whether it's ChatGPT or others. So there have been these conversations going on forever. So that's nothing new. At the same time, patients, they value credentialing, they value education, and the data doesn't lie. Before and after results that are engaging with stories, websites that are more contemporary, have gorgeous design, aesthetics, they will convert in higher numbers. They will attract more people. People will stay around longer. Um, and come on, we have to say it. Our audience, the people that we work with, they're in a aesthetic industry. I'm sorry, but looks matter. And so if you want to convey a quality of care in an aesthetic industry, you've got to have gorgeous design, and you have to continually, consistently be showing engaging, gorgeous designs in order to maintain relationships and to be conveying a message of luxury and premium services. Now, it's an interesting point, but think about it. You're interested in working with some group for whatever reason. Aren't you going to wonder about parking, about when they're open, where they located? In our case, in our industry, what other services do they offer? What about their credentialing? What's the experience like? So there's so many questions that need to be answered, even if you happen to know and find somebody in social media or in Chat GPT or any other AI agent, that really the website remains the last stop. But something interesting, so maybe put a pin in this, Matt. This is kind of an interesting point. Data is beginning to show that when patients are coming to websites by way of AI engines, whether it's ChatGPT or some of the others, they tend to be at the very low end of the funnel, and being at the low end of the funnel, they have much higher conversion rates than they do coming in from other sources. Kind of an interesting point. Not sure exactly what to do beyond what we're going to talk about today for that, but really I think that's something that might be encouraging for people that might think, oh, AI, what am I going to do? We've talked about what hasn't changed. In simple terms, let's talk about what has changed. Okay, going old school. Search engine result pages. Back in the day, we would have had, and I say back in the day, not that long ago, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago even, you would have had listings, you would have had maps, then you would have had ranked listings of pages that are best laid out to answer this question. And you don't see it in this particular example, but there are ads here somewhere. In this case, they're probably at the bottom. So it was relatively simple. Now, Matt, I'm not sure about you, but I'm old enough. I remember this.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, you recall this. No visuals, no boxes, no maps, no local businesses. It was just ads, and it was 10 listings per page. So let's go into a time machine and just go fast forward to today. This is crazy. We've got all kinds of features in search engine result pages now. The predominant one that we're beginning to see a lot more is AI overview. So this will come up in our conversation, but you can see that that Google is adapting and changing in order to keep up with the marketplace. But you can have featured snippets, knowledge boxes, you can have image carousels, you can have shopping sections. There is just a plethora, love to use that word, plethora of features that you'll find in a Google search engine result page now, because they are trying to keep you on that home page, or excuse me, that SERP page. They want to keep you there so that you are looking at their ads. At the end of the day, it's a big organization. They have to make money. They're trying to boost their profitability by keeping you on that page, but they're also trying to satisfy users' needs and wants. And we'll talk a lot more about that. Very important. What's going on over here? We have attributions for particular groups that are answering whatever the question is that's being asked. And you see also another AI generated area or feature down here. People also ask. That's become also very popular. But you still have maps. You still have organic rankings. There's one there, and you still have ads. So the basic fundamentals of the page haven't changed, but there are new features all in and around it. Okay. Some other changes. 60% of users are now using these zero-click searches. That's what we just saw, where you stay on the search page. Matt, you probably remember I failed to ever stop talking about it, but I've been learning French for 3 years. I'll go there. I'll check out a grammar question. That's as far as I need to go. I'll see who the answer was attributed to, but a lot of times that's all that I need to know is whatever the answer was to that grammar question. How about social media? Well, you can see the numbers here. 38% looking for products, 75% looking for services, and then 1/5 of our audience in search isn't even using search engines at all. That's pretty telling what's going on there. Yeah. Now, what's behind these trends? Well, user behavior. It is evolving. We'll talk about that. And competition to Google is definitely increasing, and they're having to do what I call ballroom dancing. They've got to shuffle. They've got to do something new because the rhythm of the music is changing all around them. And then the experience that actual users are receiving is changing as well as a result of this. Let's talk in a little more depth about that. User behavior. Okay. I don't think anybody in our audience would deny that our attention spans are decreasing, and we're leading busier and busier active lives. Our attention spans have changed from to 8 seconds in the last 2 decades. And supposedly the attention span of a goldfish is now 9 seconds. And so kind of interesting what's going on there, right? We're looking at our phones at 205 times a day on average, and we are spending 150 minutes in social media. All you need to do is be in an airport gateway terminal and just look around and look at how many people are on their phones. It'll be 70-80% of the people that you see around you. Voice search is growing. I frankly was asking questions of voice search in preparation for this presentation. And not only did I get really simple, straightforward answers, I also got who those answers were attributed to for the source of information. Now, this is the one that's really interesting, though. I think you'll love this, Matt. Search patterns are changing. We're evolving. We're becoming more mature searchers. And now we're not just looking, searching with 2 or 3 keywords. We're asking entire sentences. Or as one of my colleagues put it the other day, we've evolved from speaking in a few words to expressing full sentences with what our intent is. And so that's just been an amazing pattern to observe. I alluded to earlier, this competition is increasing for search. So one of the obvious, and we've been talking about it here for a moment, Matt, it's more personal. People are getting their news there. They're doing search there. I find myself using social media more and more for search these days, even though I'm in the search engine business. So that's definitely happening. And as if that's where people are, that's what they're using when they want to get something new. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, AI is growing, use of AI, in particular, Chat GPT and other LLMs, large language model search engines like ChatGPT, they are growing very quickly. And again, we can't stop hearing about it even. So the competition growing, we talked about it earlier, people staying on the SERPs page. Really, the visibility of the sources of information is decreasing because it's getting put behind SERPs pages even further with answers, with feature blocks, with advertising on the main page. The other thing is, we've kind of already said it, but we're all busy. We want quick answers. We're all living very busy lives. We just want whatever's simplest, whatever is fastest. And so both the search engines and the AI agents that are competing with search engines, I don't even know if competing is the right word to use, but and social media, they're all trying to make it easier and more simple for people to use their platforms and their channels. What's the result? The result is, and this is kind of fun, kind of a fun way to think about it. We've gone from being a search engine optimization industry to being a search and answer engine optimization. And it's from everywhere. Okay. Now, when I use the term answer, what I mean when I say that is it's no longer about keywords. It's about answering full questions that are being posed to whatever the engine is. Essentially, Google's no longer the sole focus for patient traffic, and we've got to appreciate that, and we've got to just we've got to accept it, and now we've got to know how to adapt to that. So we need to have an entire search and social ecosystem around a practice so that they're getting found, they're answering questions, they're conveying quality of care, so that more and more patients are actually booking consults and office visits with them. Okay, so this is going to be the heart of the presentation here, Matt. What exactly are digital marketers doing in support of practices to adapt and evolve and to really take advantage of all these changes? Well, the first thing that they're doing, and again, credit to my business partner, he was doing this before it was ever cool to talk about AI. He was doing these things 4 or 5 years ago. We have to give users and these answer engines, all of the answer engines, what exactly they want. And what do they want? They want quick answers, whether it's in summaries, bullets, key takeaways, procedure content blocks are kind of a cool thing. On individual procedure pages, you'll have some block talking about different points. And we need to make sure we're designing for engagement. We'll kind of get a little bit more into that. This is really important stuff. We need to write in a new style. We need to write in a Q&A style. And pro tip for our audience, putting your questions in an H2, maybe an H3, generally an H2, and then having your which is just it's a HTML markup for a header. But then you want to have the answer directly below it. So what are you doing? You're packaging up your question and your answer with a bow on it that's serving it right up to these answer engines so that you are the source of information that gets alluded to. Put your information in lists, in bullets, in summaries, wherever possible. Now, we'll explain why in a moment, but trust me that we've been nagging our clients for the entire existence, 12, 13 years, excuse me, to have CVs, to have authored papers, to have sources, original content out and around the web. This is now really important in the age of AI coming on as one of the predominant search vehicles. And then there's something called schema markup, and that has become also very important, and we're going to talk about on the next slide. So hang with me, please, for a moment. Now, we can't deny it. The data doesn't lie. Photo galleries that are fully optimized with story and with even in some cases with schema and beautiful design aesthetics on your social media post, on your website, these do gain attention in AI and SEO, and it's because they have people lingering there longer and making positive comments and engaging more. So these things really do now have this feedback mechanism where they're affecting ranking. And there's something a little bit technical, not too much, but a little bit. Think of the long tail of topic questions that might be asked. Okay, so let's just use the easy, obvious one, Botox. We'll say that's the main page. You want to have these, maybe a half a dozen pages that are peripheral to it, maybe, one level down, but they're talking about some of these long tail topics. How long does Botox last? What are the side effects of Botox? Is Botox dangerous, et cetera, et cetera? We, creative team could come up with 100 different questions to ask about whatever the main topic is. But if you have this one main page that is easily digestible by actual user patients, and you have all of these sources of information around that page, then what you are doing is you're showing authority to the AI search agents. So it is about expertise, it is about authority, it is about trust, and this is the best way to really show authority on a particular topic. We call this content mapping. Again, we've been doing this for about 5 years now, 4 years. We've been doing the schema markup for at least 8, 9 years now. So these are the things that we want to do first. Let's talk a little bit more about schema. Go ahead. Sorry.
Before you move on, I do have a question. So this idea of, designing for engagement and quick answers, can you maybe give an example of what that might look like on a dermatologist website? I don't want to derail the conversation, but that was just one thing that popped in my head I really wanted to kind of key in on.
Well, I had a example ready to go. Let me show it to you. Can you see my screen where I'm?
Yeah.
I just had this one ready to go this morning. Check that out. Now, from our SEO 101 conversation, is there original content? Yes. Is there enough content? Yes. Is there are there roadmaps showing you where that content is going? Yes. And in fact, now we can start saying, what can Botox cosmetic treat? What does a Botox treatment session involve? These are all questions and answers. But what do you see right at the top of this particular website? An entire section of FAQs. Now, I'm not sure, I can't recall whether or not this particular website has that content mapping strategy built around it, but pretty good chance that there are subpages here. Here we go. Subpages here with, peripheral topics that are really ensuring that this practice is considered the authority on that topic in medicine. Okay, moving on. Schema. All right. Don't let it intimidate you. It is just another coding language. It happens to be a coding language that was developed by developers and search engine companies. So everybody agrees that this is the language to use to provide information about information on a page. Okay. If you have images, if you have calendars or data or something on that page, you're going to be calling out what those individual items are. That's what it's doing. That's all it's doing. It's important to consider that it's deployed per page. I don't want to get on any soapbox for this point, but I do want to say, hey, there are lots of people out there saying, oh yeah, we provide a schema markup for our practices. But what they do is they use some kind of utility and they provide the most bare minimum level of deployment of this schema markup across all pages. And it's so much more important to have really good markup on the most valuable pages with some human intervention. This is going to be a reoccurring theme, Matt. We cannot put AI production tools on autopilot. We've got to have some human interaction, both to develop the initial strategy, but also then to iterate and ensure that it's on the right track. AI is very powerful when it's used properly. And what's the Spider-Man line, Matt? With great power.
Power comes great responsibility.
Thank you. Excellent. I knew you'd know that one.
Absolutely. I know my Spider-Man quotes for sure.
Okay. Now, the other thing that we're recommending to our practices, and we're we're actually deploying ourselves is a wider penetration and of positive perception across multiple channels. Now, this is going to become clear very soon, but we need to get the brand recognized across multiple channels. Why does the brand need to be recognized? Let me save that for the later slide, but it really comes into focus later. But even for SEO, the searches on your brand name never used to be something that we would worry about. In SEO 101, we didn't worry about that. It was about anonymously getting found, people that didn't even know you existed. But it now become a ranking factor if a practice's name is being searched on. We want diversity of traffic coming into that website from various social media channels, from other platforms like AI search, or from AI chat agents. So having this diversity of traffic coming into the website, having the brand have some recognition across the internet, it has become an important factor for getting found. And then, of course, traditionally, we're always talking about links, citations, publications from really respected sources. Now, when I say the word respected, what am I talking about? Expertise, authority, and trust. And that's what the practice needs to have. And all of these things are about increasing the EAT of practices. Now, the third thing is a little cheesy. I'm going to admit it. We need to make noise. What are you and I doing today? We're making noise. We're talking about how AI is getting woven into search engine optimization and has become an important part of it. But our practices, they need to do the same thing about their area of expertise, about what conditions they're treating, what kind of procedures they're involving themselves in, and they want to do this with content diversity across the web, multiple social channels, papers, and having links to respected authority sources. Okay, now I am going to get back on my soapbox just for a real quick message. Listen, good enough social media management. I post occasionally. I got some kid from, from South America, whatever. I don't care. Good enough is no longer good enough in social media. And it's because it does affect your ability to get found in AI search as well as in SEO. So here's the bad news. And of course, you can't say that unless you've got good news coming. The bad news, Matt, we do need more content, but it has to be structured very strategically so that search engines as well as artificial intelligence engines, search engines, and users are all getting the most out of that new content. It has to resonate with patients and it has to credential the practice because it's getting shared, it's getting mentioned, it's receiving some kind of engagement on social media channels. And I'll kind of give a preview. That's really what credentials the practice by getting mentions on lots of other channels. And I'll go back to my original point, which was even, you might think that SEO and websites, they're not only not dead, they have become more important than ever because that is the primary source. It's your ability to control your future destiny, and your message to the world is through your website if it's got the right kind of content structured properly, strategically for the evolving future. Okay. All right, off my soapbox, I promise. Now, in the spirit of Q&A, and in particular around the nuances of AI optimization, let's ask ourselves some questions, okay? Why is branding suddenly so critical? This was my light bulb moment, Matt. And when Ali was, trying to beat it into me and how important AI was, this was the moment I really was starting to see kind of how the whole ecosystem worked. It's not like search engines where a person asks a question and they get an infinite number of answers across thousands of pages, right? It is it is an ecosystem where you ask a question and you get one answer. And so have you ever wondered why Google, as an example, they started getting really tough on website content in medical websites? They started shutting down their pay-per-click campaigns because of what was coming up, because they wanted to ensure that they were taking their new and evolving artificial intelligence answers, in their case, AI overview. They wanted to ensure that they were coming from the most credible sources of information because they were only offering one answer to each question. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it's one of those, as we talk about AI overall, kind of as a buzzword, like it is very important that we do trust credible sources, right? Like, and that's what these models are kind of being built to do, to give you just that one answer. And I think that's just so powerful.
Why is social media presence particularly critical? Okay, this is again kind of at the heart of what we're trying to say here. Social media presence is so important because that is predominantly the source of credentialing that these AI agents are looking at. If you're, and frankly, I think it's because it's easiest, right? You've got more likes, you've got more followers, you've got more engagement, you've got more commentary in your social media. You're on cross multiple channels in social media. It just becomes so important. Um, Moving on, is it acceptable to put AI production on autopilot? Well, we've already said this one. This is an easy one.
Yeah,
No,
no brainer.
no brainer. You got to think. Look, um, and this one's fun. If everybody's seen the movie Terminator, probably, and you think about the idea of Skynet, where the machines became self-aware, um, but we're not there, and we're not going to be there for a long, long time. Can we use AI to produce content or schema that is structured for AI optimization? Yes, you can. You can actually use AI to generate some of these, some of the content, the schema markup. You can generate that through AI. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of exciting what's going on. Last, I just wanted to say, hey, we pride ourselves on doing assessments. I've personally given over 800 website assessments in 16 years, 17 years now, maybe. Um, we we don't put any pressure on anybody. We just try to provide education. It's vendor neutral. If somebody comes to us and they're doing great in a website or in their AI, we'll tell them that. What we see is what you're going to hear. So I would just encourage, if anybody wants, come to us, talk to us about your AI. We'll give you the straight scoop on how you're doing. Now, something fun at the very end. Remember, we kind of saw a website earlier that was asking questions on important procedural pages. What do you
Yeah.
get if you've done it right? If you've done it right and you're killing it, not only do you get to be the first a source of information, you get to have the first listing in the page. And then who even knows? I didn't even look any deeper, but you might also even be attributed for some of the answers to questions that people also ask. And that's kind of I love to use this term, Matt, the holy grail. I mean, you're getting found everywhere on that page, and you're really the premier source of information. So I'll just flash these up here. You can get a hold of us. Obviously, you can get a hold of Matt. We'd love to answer any questions. And in fact, how do we do on time? And do we have any questions now?
Well, Brett, we do have a couple of questions here in the queue, and these are really good ones. So this one is kind of around our we talked about longer user prompts. It says, I noticed you mentioned people are using much longer prompts. How does that change the way practices should be creating or structuring like the content on their website?
Yeah, great question. Really great question. Okay, so remember how we said you can't put things on autopilot? Now, let's say that let's say for this purpose, we are selling a widget. Okay, we have some widget, don't care what it is. That widget will have attributions in weight, in size, in features. So let's just start with those three features, right? Within each of those attributions, that widget, this is where we really want to we have some human intervention up front, strategizing, thinking about what those attributions are, maybe providing some of the questions, but then you can even, that's the point then when you can pull AI and go, hey, what are all the questions I would ask about weight for this particular widget? What are all the questions I would ask about size for this particular widget? What are the various questions I could be asking about this widget for its feature set? Does that make sense? It's almost like a big table that you create in order to ask all of the different questions about a particular whatever it is, your premium service, your procedure, your your branded Botox or Dysport or
Right.
any injectables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense, and it's it's interesting with these prompts, and it really comes down to you know how do people talk about that product, or what types of questions do my patients commonly ask me about this, and framing it in the right way so it's picked up on.
Yeah, and to be fair, Matt, you kind of said it yourself there. You can even use AI prompting in order to generate what those attributions are.
Right.
Um, what are all the attributions around what ABC, whatever ABC is, right? But yeah, but let's say that you don't have access to, it's not the case anymore, but let's say you don't have access to an AI. You really you want to break it into bite-sized morsels that you can get your brain wrapped around, where you just ask, okay, speaking of the symptoms that I would feel for this medicine, let's just think about all the questions that might come up around symptoms. Speaking about the side effects, speaking about the cost, speaking about whatever the different attributions are, right?
Right.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. And then one last question here I see in the chat. It sounds like practices can't just focus on one channel anymore. If you had to prioritize, where should a practice start? What should they focus on first?
Yeah, another great question. And but it has to start with another question. And the question is this: who's your audience? Who are your most likely consumers of your services? If you're telling me that your services are super young, they're in their 20s, then maybe it's TikTok. If your users are 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe it's Instagram. If it's 30s, 40s, 50s, then it's Facebook. If they're in business, then it's LinkedIn. So it really is a question of who are your current clients and what are the clients that you aspire to serving.
Right.
And if you ask those questions, then that drives you in the right direction towards which channel you should be using. Now, we're just talking about social media. Again, if you want to get found in AI search, you do all this stuff in SEO, and then you layer on top of it the structure, the content, the schema markup of the AI, the AI optimization, right?
Right.
Yeah, I get a little repetitive talking about foundation, but it's just so critical to every
Yeah.
aspect of what we do.
Brett, I think we're coming close to time. I don't see any additional questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Again, I just want to thank you. I always appreciate the conversation. I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Have a good rest of your week. Thank you.